Good morning. Today is day 96, and again, this is the whole personal devotion week where I'm basically encouraging you guys to put all of these things into action now. I'm pretty much done teaching for the rest of the 100 days. Now this week I'm just pretty much encouraging you guys to continue to encourage you guys to push, to seek God like never before, to give it all you got, especially these last 4 or 5, if you want to count today, these 5 days of the year. So this today's topic is basically about rebuking fear. I'm going to kind of do a little review, a light review on fear and faith versus fear. So basically, I guess I'm just encouraging you guys today just to push past your comfort zone. Push past your comfort zone as far as in you seeking God, seeking God a certain way. Seek God. Push past your normal way of seeking God. Push past your normal way of reading your Word. Push past your normal way of praying. And overall, I do believe that I was glancing at my notes and it kind of brought back the scenario in my mind, but I'm going to try to keep this short because that's the whole purpose of this week. But for the most part, from what I've observed from other people and from my own experience, I know that what has kept me from, what used to keep me from pursuing God and for going after Him and also growing spiritually is that I was afraid of what God would tell me to do. I was afraid of what God would require of me because really I didn't want to leave my comfort zone. I was very comfortable being unnoticed. I was very comfortable sitting in the back of the church. I was very comfortable not doing anything. I was very comfortable doing the bare minimum. I didn't want to be noticed. I didn't want the spotlight. I didn't want to do anything. But you know, when you have a call on your life, and everybody does, there's going to be a time where God's going to require of you to start stepping out more. And I call those, or we would know that as in taking risks. And really, I do this because there really is no risk in God. So I would say that right now, if you're battling fear, any form of fear right now in your life, it may behoove you to try to muster up the courage and the strength. Hey, Tia, to muster up the courage and the strength to confront it, because that's the only way that you can confront fear. And when you have fear, typically there's a faith issue, a lack of faith issue. Because when you fear God, particularly, you're pretty much telling God that you don't trust Him, that you're not comfortable with Him, that basically you just don't trust Him. And you don't believe Him to keep His word. You don't believe Him to protect you. You don't believe Him to cover you when He does tell you to do things. And you know in the Word it says, without faith it is impossible to please God. And if you don't have faith, you won't make faith moves. And in the end, that'll cause you to disobey God in the end. That's why it's impossible to please God without faith, because in the end, faith causes you not to do anything. You're paralyzed. You refuse to obey God because you don't trust Him. So, like I said, I'm not going to be on here very long. Your action item for today, the only way to increase your faith, the only way really to increase your faith is to make faith moves. But I'm going to take that a step, take you guys a step back for a moment, especially for you guys who are really, I would say, paralyzed with fear, to increase your word intake. Faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. And I believe also rooted in fear is that you really don't know God as much as you say you do, because if you did, it wouldn't be so hard for you to break through fear. So I would encourage you guys, your action item for today is to increase your word intake. And as a result, that would increase your faith, that would increase your confidence of God, that would also increase your knowledge of who God is. And when you read your word, believe it. There was one guy a couple of weeks ago that was on Periscope, and he asked me a question and said, well, how do I know that that God is the real God? How do I know that Jesus Christ is for real? And he was asking me a question, well, how do I know that what history says is true about Christ? And he kind of went on this whole spiel, which, good Lord. And he kind of went on this whole spiel as far as, he implied, he didn't say it, But I detected that there was a fear because he implied that he was afraid of being deceived. He didn't want to be in a cult. He didn't want to be tricked. He wanted to know if this thing was for real, which was a valid concern. But I told him the only way for you to really know is to try God. And I know from his perspective that wasn't an answer that he was looking for, because that defeated his whole purpose of being concerned. Why would I jump into something that I don't know and I don't trust? I want to know first. But when it comes to God, and I'm also bringing this back in with your relationship and what you believe God for, and for those of us who are afraid to make faith moves, you're just going to have to just trust God. Peter did that when he stepped out the boat. I'm very sure his mind was like looking at all the wind and the waves and who would think to step out on water? If I was in that boat, I would not have even thought to step out on water. So that was a faith move that Peter did. Because we all know since the beginning of time, if you step on water, you can't even step on water. That's impossible. But something in Peter told him to make that faith move to step out on water. I guess because he saw Christ do it, and he knew that Christ wouldn't let him drown, he trusted Christ. So in the same way that Peter trusted Christ in the impossibilities and in the craziness of it all, we need to know that Christ won't let you fall when he asks you to do something, that Christ won't disappoint you. He won't. Now, I will say this. When you do make faith moves, at first, and I mean like really faith moves, especially publicly, it will feel awkward. You may be embarrassed. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes God will put you in situations publicly where people will think you are crazy, but at the end of the day, it's for him to be glorified, and it's also to prove to the naysayers that God is for real, that God is God. Because you wouldn't need faith for normal situation things. God is God in the impossibilities. That's what makes God God. So don't rob God of the opportunity of him being God in the impossibilities. And especially if you crave to live a supernatural life, a naturally supernatural life, one where the power of God is very normal in your life, where miracle signs and wonders are normal in your life, you can only do that by living a life of faith. You can't do that in fear. Fear's mission is to paralyze you from making any moves. Fear's mission is to keep you in your comfort zone, to seduce you back into your comfort zone. Because I've even experienced this too, that when I finally do step out, like corporate prayer was my biggest, leading corporate prayer was my biggest struggle in 2017. And I noticed that each time I would confront fear by, confronting my fears by picking up the mic, actually not running away from the mic, and volunteering to get the mic. Each time I would make those progress, fear would just go off and be like, it would try to seduce me back into my comfort zone, seduce me back into hiding from the mic because it felt comfortable. That's what I was familiar with. So be mindful of that. Whenever you do go out and make faith moves, fear will always be in your ear trying to draw you back into your comfort zone. That's its job, is to paralyze you and keep you stagnant. So I did not mean to go this long, but hey. So tomorrow, I have 4 more days left. So I'm slowly going to bring all this to an end. But I'll be on tomorrow at 7 a.m. If you guys are still with your family, enjoy times with your family. And I will see you guys then.